Okay. We got some, okay. Welcome back, Doug Forster, Spotlight on Local Las Vegas Business. Quick question in the chat room's come up. What's your opinion of guys like Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman?
Well, both of them have some good advice to give.
Okay.
But both of them have some very bad advice they give too. What I find is they're national celebrities, so people think whatever they say is good for them.
It's gospel.
Yeah, well, they think it's good for them.
Right.
But one thing is not good for everybody.
Right.
So.
Okay. Now, what would you say to them if you ever sat down with either of those two? What things would you say to them in a room with with Ramsey or Orman?
I would tell them they need to change their advice they give on term insurance.
Okay.
Because they think strictly term insurance. Now, I've heard some things differently recently from them, but basically they're buy term insurance, that's it.
Okay.
But, and I tell most people, that's good to have term insurance when you're budget conscious.
Right.
But you will need, or you probably will need, a permanent policy later on in life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a good example of that is my father passing this last year.
Okay.
He was in the industry, didn't tell me that his insurance, he let it lapse because he couldn't afford it anymore. And we could have done something for him. But so when he passed, my mom lost income to the household because she loses Social Security.
Gotcha.
So you need to make up that kind of income. Whatever income's coming in, you need to make that up.
Okay. Very cool. Now, he used me as an example. Here's a guy who's going to be 67 in a couple of weeks.
68.
68?
68.
God damn.
I'm telling you.
You realize you're old enough to be my father?
I know that.
Give or take a few years?
I know.
Oh, grandfather for sure.
Yeah. You know, there might be some kids out there that I don't know about.
What would you tell a guy at his age? You know, I mean, he's at the other end of the spectrum. I mean,
I'd have to see what he's doing now and see what kind of goals he wants to try and reach.
We certainly don't want to freak him out.
Yeah.
So,
one of the big things with seniors, though, is they can save money on different things. Medicare supplements. If they haven't selected Social Security yet, there's some Social Security planning that can be done.
okay.
So make things better for you later on.
One of the things that I learned in chatting with Doug back in,
February.
Yeah, but I'm reading the chat room. There's more stuff popping up about everything that's coming up, about what we're talking about. No questions, just comments. Is how Doug likes to position himself with his clients. You know, a lot of we've met financial planners over the years that we've known each other in different organizations, and many of them could be very stuffy, using a word, you know, to describe them. They know their stuff, and you know they're the cat's meow of things. But one thing that impressed me with Doug's philosophy in talking with his clients is that he's like a Wilson to his clients. You know, Wilson from Home Improvement. When somebody needs advice, when somebody just wants to bounce around an idea, or the way I would talk to you about, you know, I'm thinking about buying this. What do you think? Or you call me.
Right.
That's really what Doug you want to do that with your clients. You want your clients to include you in their thought processes as a friend, as a consultant, whatever terminology you want to use, to weigh through pros and cons and how to invest their spending dollars on buying something. Yes.
Correct. Yes. It's if they trust me enough.
Right.
Then that's exactly what I am. I'm that advisor that they can call about anything.
Okay.
If they're going to buy a car, I want them to call me and say, you know, Doug, I'm thinking about buying this car. What do you think about this? Is this a decent model? You know, whatever it might be. Just to bounce it off me, see what kind of ideas I have about it. And I would ask them questions back.
Right.
Do you really need to buy? Maybe for your business, it might be wise to lease and write off the lease. Or if you're going to buy, maybe not buy a new car, buy a certified used car. Save yourself some money in that, you know, drive off the lot loss that you take with a new car. So it's just bouncing those questions back and forth.
Okay.
See if they can think about a better way to do what they're planning on doing.
Now, I know that in any type of financial planning, credit repair has to become a very, very important issue if people are going to try to repair their credit and get themselves back on their feet. What do you normally recommend on how to deal with you know, XYZ credit?
Well, and I do that through other people. I don't do credit repair myself. There are experts in that, and I'm not very good at doing those kinds of things. My best advice in that arena is actually go to Legal Shield to start with.
There you go.
Because then you have somebody that's, you know, you have attorneys and you have people that actually do that for a living.
Well said.
Well, being a Legal Shield member and representative, I couldn't agree with you more.
Well said. I think the thing, it's the one thing that I'm getting out of this, and it's so obvious that it's crazy that sometimes you miss the obvious. That we're talking to Doug about financial planning, and again, everybody thinks investments and all of the normal stuff, but there is no cookie cutter formula.
No, there isn't.
Like a lot of things that are out there, where you have one program, one step-by-step recipe to do it. But yet, when it comes to financial planning for your family, there's no quick answer, because everybody's different, and it's so obvious that you have to know what you're doing. You think you know, but you don't know.
And I think the thing that Doug brings most to the table, just in talking with him earlier today and hearing him tonight, is a personal touch.
Right.
And that personal touch has to go a long way in making people feel comfortable. I mean, look, let's face it, we've discussed this many, many times. When we go to buy a particular product, we usually buy the person before we buy the product.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that, goes a long way in doing something like this. And of course, if the end result is that people can get back on their feet and have a nest egg, if you will, it's going to make their senior years a lot happier. Believe
absolutely.
me, that's an important factor.
Absolutely. Is there, again, I guess I already know the answer based on our discussion, but is there a point in someone's life where you look at and say, you know what, you've just done the best that you can, and there really isn't anything? Like, what circumstances would you not give somebody advice?
I haven't found somebody yet that I couldn't give advice to.
Oh, there you go.
Never. I have always been able to give them one tip.
Right.
I have a couple I've worked with. They used to work at the test center,
Okay.
the test site.
Right.
Both are retired, so they got good retirement going for them, pensions. And they had just good savings. They paid off their house. Again, they bought certified used cars, so not spending that big dollar on vehicles.
Right.
Just did everything right. It was amazing. The first couple I'd ever worked with like that. But they didn't have long-term care.
Oh, okay.
So we talked about, rather than spending your own money for that, because they thought they'd be self-insured, we found a way to position some of their assets so it's pennies on the dollar. So if they need care later on, they have it available through that long-term care product. If they're not going to need it, they get their dollars back.
Nice.
And in today's day and age, when people are living longer, long-term care is something that you never want to be dependent on your children.
Correct.
I mean, that's almost like a given, because you're still trying to prove to them that, hey, we don't need you, you need us, right? So, I can appreciate that, because I think long-term care needs to be part of everybody's future, in order for them to have something to fall back on when that time comes.
Now, what other states are you licensed in? So we're not just talking local.
Right.
Where else are you licensed?
Nebraska, Arizona, California.
Okay, so if you're listening from those areas, you also mentioned during the break you actually do have a toll-free number, not just a local number. Why don't you give both numbers again?
Okay, the local number, 702-445-3454. Toll-free, 855-263-8287.
Okay, so get in touch with them. Now, I'm going to ask you to share one piece of advice for everybody, just something for people to think about. But if it were me, what you said in the last almost 30 minutes that we've been together, knowing your budget and having a budget is probably key to getting started in knowing where you're going to go.
Exactly.
Besides
where are you
that.
spending your dollars?
Okay.
Where are you spending your dollars? Well, then again, it's risk.
Okay.
You need to know where your risks are. In other words, if you're providing income for somebody, what's going to happen if you're not there to provide that income, that money? If you're a business owner and you can't work in your business, who runs the business for you?
Okay.
So just those kinds of questions. Where are your risks? You understand where your risks are, and then you decide how to handle those risks.
Stay healthy, will you?
Hey, no Vietnamese dong.
Yeah, no dongs?
No dongs.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I mean, the thing is that when it comes to one's money, it seems like a logical thing that we should be aware of on how we're spending our money, but we become so frivolous in our society that you lose track of it. You don't know where every penny's going.
I think the biggest challenge is the budget. I mean, it
would be for me, in all honesty.
And I think it would be for me too, because, I have a general idea,
Right.
a real good idea of what's coming in
Right.
each month, But if I ever tried to make a list of what's going out, it never quite
Works out.
materializes, right?
We're fine with like the federal government. We're always in the red. I may try that for the month of April, and then
To put together a budget.
just keep every receipt, everything we spend money on for the month of April,
and just see how it
and
comes out.
then
at the
from
end.
there we can sit down with Doug and work on a budget. So.
It's really kind of fun process when you go through it.
All right, I'll have to get Robin in the habit of it for the next couple of days, so that we start on the 1st.
I might try that for April as well.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Doug Forster, the financial conductor, here in studio with us. Thank you for coming in, Doug. We appreciate it. Good stuff.
Thanks for having
Things
me.
to keep people aware of. Give those phone numbers one more time, if you would.
Okay, 702-445-3454. Toll free, 855-263-8287.
Excellent. Give Doug a call. You will not regret making a phone call to Doug and talking to him about your financial future.
One of the things that I did here today that certainly made sense, because I remember going all the way back 20, 30, 40 years when people talked about insurance, there was always one person that said, as well as having your term insurance program, have something that you'll wind up getting some income out of in the future. And that was good advice then, and I don't doubt seriously that it's still good advice today.
I'm sure. All right. Thanks again, Doug. We appreciate it. And look for the video to be up. You can always catch Doug's comments on our podcast. You can catch them on YouTube as we're videotaping this segment. And yeah, check it out. Revisit it. Jot down those numbers and give Doug a call from really anywhere. I'm sure he'll take your call no matter where you're from to at least make some recommendations. So anyway, Vegas Unwrapped. When we come back on the other side, some unwrapped treasures perhaps. Some things going on that you and I are getting involved with over the next coming weeks, including needs for tuxedos. Mr. Bond.
James Bond.
Phillips and Cash, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Own your own.